It's definitely over. I mean, it's pretty damn bad. And I have to admit, I'm kind of sad about it because as I've tried to tell people on many, many occasions, I want them relevant and I want them doing well and I want them going, having the good Thanksgiving or whatever. And I want their expectations to be high and then plummet. I want them falling off a cliff, not a curve.
Welcome into KindaAskewSports, the only sports show on YouTube willing to tell you if my team sucks. But this week the Cardinals did not suck. In fact, their defense played phenomenal. I don't think I've seen a Cardinals defense play like this since the no-fly zone of the 2010s. The Cardinals put a whoop down on the Cowboys this week, 27-17. They held the Cowboys offense to only 10 points in the game, and if it weren't for that block punt, it would have been a 27-10 victory. One thing that this game also did was solidify in my mind that Jacoby Brissett has won the locker room in the players' minds, even if he hasn't won it in the coaches' minds, and he needs to be starting for the rest of the season. Another key I saw in this game is how many forced fumbles can we possibly force in a game? There's only so much I can handle before I get too excited. Please, Cardinals defense, slow down a bit. You have to take me to dinner first. Jacoby Brissett nearly threw for another 300 yards in today's game with 2 touchdowns to boot, and Emari Demercado didn't completely redeem himself, but he redeemed himself a little bit with 79 yards rushing and a very smart move at the end of the game where he slid inbounds instead of running out of bounds. And that's the first thing I want to talk about today. Emari Demercado learning his lesson from fumbling the ball through the back of the end zone against the Titans in week 5. That was something in my mind I looked at as a cuttable offense. You cut that guy and you get him off the team. And a lot of times players in the NFL have too big of an ego and don't learn their lesson. They go from making a dumb play, they stay on the same team, they make another dumb play, and it just keeps repeating itself over and over. But in this situation, it's a little bit different. Emari Demercado, after that horrible mistake, seems like he maybe is learning his lesson and is trying to think about what he should be doing. It's amazing for me when a player learns their lesson and actually starts trying to improve. That is a player that is coachable. That is a player that is redeemable. And even in such a small play when the game counted, Emari had the football in his hands, he got a first down with 4 minutes left in the game, and he slid down on the ground. That in itself shows that he was coachable and that he has learned his lesson from the horrible mistake that he made that basically costed us the Titans game. He also had a great game rushing the football, 14 carries for 79 yards. Zonovan Knight only had 27 yards on the ground on 9 carries, so with performances like this, Demercado could end up finding himself being the starter if Trey Benson doesn't come back for a while. Another big takeaway for me from the win on Monday Night Football was that Jacoby Brissett balled out again. He clearly has won over the locker room, including names like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride, your number 1 and number 2 targets on the field. It seems to me that he's also won over the coaching staff with the starting job, and at this point I feel like if you put Kyler Murray back into the mix, you may risk losing your locker room, because it seems like they are fully behind this guy after competing against the Colts and barely losing, after competing against the Packers and barely losing, and then after absolutely dominating, and I will say it was pretty much a domination of the Cowboys. We had a lead the entire game. The lead was gigantic for most of the game, and we didn't blow it in the fourth quarter. Jacoby Brissett combined for 600 yards passing in his 2 first games that he played this season, and now he threw for 261 here last night. He also went 21 of 31, so he was very efficient, and he didn't turn the ball over with any interceptions. Plus the touchdown passes to Marvin Harrison Jr. where he broke the ankles of the number 1 cornerback for the Cowboys and made CeeDee Lamb's jaw drop to the ground in disbelief. Oh man, that was nasty. And the other touchdown throw to Trey McBride that helped us get a bigger lead. Jacoby Brissett just needs to be the starter for the rest of the season. I'm going to keep repeating this until it actually happens. And I believe that there are other notable people in Arizona sports who agree with me. Take that Bickley blast this morning on Arizona Sports Radio, for example.
We have learned a lot about Kyler Murray in year 7. We have learned that 7 is not his lucky number. It was the number he wore when putting on a Michael Vick replica jersey while posing with his dogs earlier in the season, a tone-deaf move that required an apology, and it's the number of the backup quarterback who has stolen his thunder and maybe even his job. After a huge season-saving win on Monday Night Football, there is no way the Cardinals can take the reins from Jacoby Brissett now, not when he has dramatically elevated the offense and the wide receiver room in ways that Murray cannot. His signing has been a godsend for the organization, illuminating the leadership and the toughness that has been so badly missing at the position. And you can see this team responding and fighting for Brissett in ways that make you love football, in ways that make you feel hopeful all over again, because they see Brissett fighting for them. The Cardinals can say what they want about how nothing's changed, but the people know. There were reports over the weekend on social media that Murray jerseys are now on the discount rack, and I received 2 emails this morning from fans wanting to know where they can buy Brissett's replica jersey. And in Arizona, it's time to give the team, the players, and the people what they want.
But unfortunately, still after this game, this is what Coach Gannon had to say about the quarterback situation.
The Murray question popped up again. ESPN talked about it a lot, kind of the mystery, this cloud of mystery around this quarterback situation right now. Jonathan Gannon, after the win and another solid, almost spectacular performance at times from Jacoby Brissett, was asked about the starting quarterback position in his press conference.
Will Kyler still be your starting quarterback when he returns?
Yeah, nothing's changed on that.
Why?
That's how I feel.
We've seen Brissett
done enough to earn more opportunities.
Yeah, I got nothing to add on that, guys.
There are 2 things that can happen here if you put Kyler Murray back in as a starter. Either you march into Seattle next week and you pull off a win and everybody takes a sigh of relief and thinks maybe this is possible, or the more likely scenario is Kyler Murray and the Cardinals offense look way worse than Jacoby Brissett has looked over the last 3 weeks, and you drop a deuce on the field against the Seahawks in Seattle, and your season is done, and you've lost the locker room, and the coaching staff is probably going to lose their jobs. There's a lot riding on this Kyler Murray situation. The players don't care what the quarterbacks are getting paid. Jacoby may be getting paid a backup QB salary, and Kyler Murray may be getting $250 million with a B. The players don't care. The players want to win, and we want to see winning. And that's what we saw last night. And I know this Cowboys defense has been one of the worst defenses last year, and I know the Cowboys defense has been awful, and people have been saying Kyler Murray would have done good against the Cowboys last night as well. But would Kyler Murray have competed with the Colts or the Packers? When Brissett is throwing the ball, he's confident, he doesn't give up on his players, he fights to stay off of the ground, he tries his best to avoid sacks, and he tries his best to make good throws. That's all we can ask for right now. I've seen way too many times this season already with Kyler Murray in the beginning of the year where he would get pressured and immediately fall to the ground instead of using his speed like his best attribute to get out of the sack and run downfield.
Now run, Barry, run!
But on top of the fact that Jacoby Brissett just looks like a better quarterback this season objectively, like just watch the offense and how they look this year with Kyler Murray versus when Jacoby Brissett's playing. It just looks different. It just looks better. But on top of that, maybe you should ask Marvin Harrison Sr., who was quoted as saying this offense looks really hard to watch. Not too long ago this year, Marvin Harrison Jr. had 7 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown this game. Michael Wilson had 3 receptions for 61 yards. And Trey McBride had 5 catches for 55 yards. You think those guys want to see Kyler Murray come back out on the field and run around and scamper and do a backyard drill all of a sudden again? No, they want to know that they run their route and the ball may be coming to them like a real NFL team. Look, I'm not saying Kyler Murray is like a horrible quarterback. I'm just saying he's not the answer in Arizona, and it's time to move on from him. We beat the Cowboys so bad that Stephen A. Smith, who was sitting next to Jerry Jones in the first quarter, got up early so he could leave because it was too awkward. We beat the Cowboys so badly that today they traded for Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle from the Jets, and a 3-time Pro Bowler, and they gave away a first-round draft pick to do so. Don't they know that that's not gonna fix the problems on their defense? That secondary is still horrible. Maybe they should have done what the Colts did and went and got Sauce Gardner so they could have some secondary help. But it was just a beautiful game offensively, probably the most beautiful game offensively that we've seen in Arizona for a while. Now let's talk about the defense, who, man, did such a great job last night. Walter Nolan, playing his first game with the Cardinals this season, had 3 tackles and 1 assisted tackle and had 1 big sack, but the most important thing was he made it a lot harder on the offensive line and allowed guys like Josh Sweat and Calais Campbell to also have an impact on the game. Josh Sweat had 2 sacks, Calais Campbell had 2 sacks, and Walter Nolan had 1 sack. And I thought for sure he had a second one, but I guess I was dreaming. Walter Nolan looks like a piece that's going to make this defense look incredibly stronger on the defensive line. And a strong defensive line and pass rush can make the rest of your defense's lives much easier. So it's honestly going to be really exciting to see what we see from him going forward. Denzel Burke had 5 tackles and an interception in this game, so great game for him. Will Johnson also got 5 tackles as well, and the defense had 3 big forced fumbles in this game, and they just kept stripping the ball. It might have been at least 3 forced fumbles, but it seemed like they were making the Cowboys fumble the ball every drive. The Cowboys fumbled the ball 3 times and recovered 1 of them, but the Cardinals were able to recover 2 of them. In fact, Cody Simon had the big strip tackle at the end of the game that was recovered by Davis Gaither, and that one pretty much sealed the deal for the Cardinals victory. That's one thing that we haven't seen in the 5 losses this season, and it was a welcome sight to see the Cardinals put their foot down on the neck of a team they were beating and finally beat them.
Quite honestly, because it wasn't like they were playing good offensively while Kyler Murray was playing. Their best football has been the last 3 games. Granted, they lost the previous 2.
The Cardinals do need to clean up a little bit on the offensive line as they still allowed 5 sacks this week, but Jacoby Brissett handled that leaky offensive line with absolute perfection, still being able to carve up the Cowboys defense even though he was getting pressured the whole game. But the Cardinals defense surprisingly also got 5 sacks in this game, as I pointed out already. I thought Dak Prescott would be a lot more mobile and able to get away from it, but they were just rushing him all game long and he could not avoid it. But if we're looking at the stat totals of this game, everything was split pretty much right down the middle. The Cowboys failed on multiple opportunities. They failed on 2 4th down conversions. They missed a 68-yard field goal and they kept fumbling the ball away. The Cardinals held the ball for 33 minutes and the Cowboys held it for 26 minutes. But the Cardinals capitalized on the mistakes and it got them a big win this week. And let me just tell you that looking at a record of 3-5 in the standings looks much better than a record of 2-6. Let's hope the Cardinals can keep this momentum going as they play the Seahawks in Seattle next week. I wanted to be able to live stream that game, but I won't be able to live stream this one because I have more family business to attend to as I'm helping a family member move into their home. But don't worry, one of these days I'm going to start live streaming the Cardinals games and it's going to be great. We're currently at 141 subscribers, so thank you all for the love and support as we grow my new sports channel on YouTube. I want to make the greatest community on YouTube and the best Arizona sports community that there is on the YouTube platform. And with your help, we're going to make that happen. I will see you very soon with my Cardinals fans during the Cowboys game video, but until then, all I have left to say is have a fantastic day, go Cardinals, and bye-bye.